Indonesian President Joko Widodo has warned that he will not tolerate people who disturb the security of the country. He spoke to the media after violent protests hit the capital, Jakarta, last night after he was officially declared the winner of the April presidential election. The protests have continued throughout this afternoon, with police in riot gear clashing with protesters. Now, reports suggest at least 6 people have been killed and hundreds more injured. And for more, Dr. Charlotte Setijadi joins us in studio right now, and she's Assistant Professor of Humanities at the Singapore Management University.
Yeah, thanks for coming in.
Pleasure.
Firstly, we were speaking with Saiful Bari Ismail, our correspondent, earlier, and the situation on the ground seemed quite tense with the protesters. Was this anticipated? Unfortunately,
yes. There's historical precedents for this, right? Not the riot itself. The riot has been terrible, and it's in many ways worse than predicted. In 2014, when Prabowo lost with a much closer margin than this, he went all the way to the Constitutional Court, as he has said that he will do this time around as well, to contest the election on the grounds of what he alleges are widespread voting irregularities and abuse of power, etc. The riots, not unpredicted, but the scale of it has been worrying and quite worse than what a lot of people have predicted.
Okay, but this isn't over. It seems that it's going to continue because until Prabowo gets what he wants, we're going to see some sort of an extension here. How far and how much, and what do you think is going to happen, with Prabowo taking this to court?
The thing is, Prabowo is going to court with this. He's already said that, they were flip-flopping about it. They were saying that, no, we're not going to take this to court because we don't believe in the court system that is biased towards Jokowi. But then they decided that they were going to go to court. And the thing is, I think even Prabowo himself knows that he's not going to be declared the winner, right? Like with 14 million votes in between Jokowi and Prabowo, a 10-point margin, better than what a lot of pollsters predicted. Even Prabowo himself, I think, knows that the Constitutional Court is not going to rule for him. What he wants, I think, is to firmly establish himself as the opposition that has been wronged. So it's to create that seed of doubt, and it's to create that sense of injustice among his supporters, so that it will give his oppositional stance and also his party and whoever is his successor for the 2024 election sponsored by his Gerindra party that legitimacy and that sense of we need to take power back from the current coalition. Yeah. That's what he wants.
And to certainly fire up the base, perhaps.
Correct.
Do you think that sort of the growing sectarianism in Indonesia also plays its part in this?
Absolutely. So if we look at news reports that are coming in and the footage that have come in, you have at the moment on Jakarta streets, ulamas on the back of pickup trucks, riling up supporters, saying that this is part of the holy war to get justice, because the current president that has been re-elected is anti-Islam, is not going to be supportive towards the implementation of Sharia law, etc. All these allegations, right? So what we saw from the 2017 Jakarta gubernatorial elections, and that has been ongoing, the growing sphere of influence of the Islamist factions and hard-right Islamist groups such as the Islamic Defenders Front, and the election that we just saw was colored by that, to the extent that Jokowi himself pandered towards the Islamist faction by declaring Maruf Amin as his running mate, now going to be vice president, who's chairman of chairman of Nahdlatul Ulama and one of the hardline Islamist ulamas, the most respected in Indonesia. So it's absolutely colored by that, and now what Prabowo is doing is firming up that oppositional stance and co-opting the Islamist factions along with his defeat.
Okay, so speaking of Jokowi, then if Prabowo is going to firmly entrench himself and root himself as the opposition, what can Jokowi do? Because he's going to be the president, he's going to be the leader now, right? So what can he do now? Going forward, what are his challenges to try and find some sort of harmony between these two factions here?
That's a difficult question to answer, to be honest, there are different hypothetical situations here that analysts have been looking at. So on one hand, we might hope for a stronger Jokowi, in a sense that he doesn't need to worry about being re-elected again in 2024 because of the two-term presidency. Now he can be stronger towards provocateurs, stronger towards hardline Muslim groups on one hand, and he has already said today that he's not going to tolerate any, of the rioters and those who provoked the rioting actions. So that's one way he could go with this. But on the other hand, he's not the chairman of his party, right? PDIP is still firmly under Megawati Soekarno Putri's control. He's not actually, he's very much dependent on his coalition. So he needs to keep his coalition happy, and the leaders of his coalition parties may not let him be as strong as maybe he would like, right? Because they do need to think about 2024, the presidential election, and they can't alienate the Islamist voters and the conservative Muslim voters too much in that regard. So in terms of how he will handle this, I think he can go either way. There's a cabinet reshuffle scheduled for, they're talking about it, scheduled for about June, after all this settles down, hopefully. I think we can see Jokowi, we can speculate that Jokowi will invite into the cabinet perhaps some members of Prabowo Subianto's coalition as a gesture. But before that happens, we still have the court case, and going by last time in 2014, this can go all the way up to August before anything gets decided, so this is an ongoing issue, and the challenge is for the government and the security forces to keep things peaceful from now until then.
Right, indeed, so lots ahead as well, but thank you so much for coming in and speaking to us. We've been speaking there with Dr. Charlotte Setijadi, Assistant Professor of Humanities at the Singapore Management University.